Sean here with Triangle of Truth with a rapid review for this week. So, this one I'm actually really excited to talk to you guys about. This is one that I had wanted to read most of last year, and I would have read it sooner, but I just happened to miss issue one coming out, and usually when that happens, I typically at that point will wait for the trade. So, flash forward to this year, the trade came out, and I am here to talk to you about the life and death of Toyo Harada. This was something that, as soon as I saw that it was announced, I really was excited to read it because Toyo is the big bad of the Valiant universe, at least in my opinion. I mean, usually when you talk Valiant villains, that's the top guy. And I love a good villain story, and so I was really anticipating getting to read this, hoping that it was as good as pretty much everything that Valiant comes out with. And it did not disappoint at all. This was one of the best, if maybe not the best villain story I've read. Take that for what you will. I've not really been reading for all too long, maybe about 4 or 5 years, but nonetheless, fantastic story. Cannot recommend it enough to everybody. So as you can guess, this has to do with Toyo Harada, and the story starts out with him putting up, as he calls it, like an elevator uh, for a thing going up into space. And what this is doing will allow him to work with like a ring of debris that is surrounding the Earth that's, of alien origin. He can get different information, maybe new tech, stuff like that, stuff that would help him come into power more than he already is or has been in the Valiant universe over the past, forever, basically. But Toyo is also older. He's, growing weak, and his funds are running out. And so the world is now kind of able to uh, get to him in certain ways because you have Project Rising Spirit, who is a body that has been fighting him for years, and they've also gotten different nations to sign up into this whole initiative and fight against him. Um, so it begins with him doing that, and they attack his base of operations where they're launching everything from. Well, while everything is going on, at first Toyo is up in space, and of course Toyo, being the most powerful psiot that there is a badass. I mean, the dude has a force field around him, so he can breathe in space and he can fly because of his abilities. um, After the attack, of course, he comes back, and you meet this alien being who is basically the reason why he was even able to do and build everything that he's been building to launch this elevator into space. And the twist of this is, though, he owes her something, and it's a simple thing. Apparently, she just wants human children to do scientific research on because she views all humans as inferior, but he is a more exceptional specimen than the others, as she puts it, or interesting. But Toyo, being Toyo, is trying to manipulate her and play games and has not given her what she's wanted. This leads to her turning on him and giving information to Rising Spirit and the nation so that they can attack him and tell them when he's at his most vulnerable, which for Toyo is when he is in his sleep vault. Now, Toyo has to do this, um, go into the sleep vault, and it basically blocks out everything from his mind so that he does not just go crazy and lose it mentally. This is a way for him to rest everything, which is relatable, of course, to real life because we all just kind of need a break. So I found that very cool that they humanized him in a way with doing that. So of course, when this happens and they say he's going to go into the vault, she tells him attack now. He does this early though. She usually says does it once a month, and she says he'll do it in 2 days. Well, he decided to do it 2 days early because he suspected that she was going to do something to him. Turns out he was right. Um, they have a little confrontation between the two of them. Her name is Angela, by the way. I forgot to say that at the beginning here. And basically, what he is trying to get a hold of before she does is this brain. Is what when you see the drawing, it's basically a brain, but it is from her dimension, and it is basically the power behind all of her research, all her weapons, and everything that her and Toyo have built. Um, so when he comes in, he thinks he's going to take it, and it turns out to be a hologram. And he turns around, there she is holding it. And by doing this, they set this reactor device off that is basically powering everything. And there's a huge explosion, and this kills Toyo. And mind you, this is only halfway through the book, and I'm like, whoa, okay. You've already killed him, and we've still got, 2, 3 issues left here to go. This is where it really gets freaking good. Of course, as time passes, you see that all the people that Toyo controlled, that he released, but just before this whole explosion and attack happened and let them have their own free will, they're still fighting. They're still trying to find each other. And then there's this one that's like Major Mech, I believe is what he's called. But he's a robot, but he's a sentient robot, which is totally cool. Thinks, feels, everything. And you see him kind of wake up with amnesia, because out of everything, his actually let me come back a little bit. Let me come way back. So just before all this attack happened, this is why Major Mech is important. Toyo had a talk with him and said he was going to look into his systems, because he wanted to see why Mech could have dreams, because he dreams just like a normal human would. That was actually right there is where the twist of this whole story happens. So now that we can do that, let's fast forward. So actually, I take that back. Come back a little bit. So when Mech awakens from this, he keeps having system lags, and they keep gradually getting worse. That is kind of the whole draw. So what happened while he was basically asleep is the whole twist here. And I apologize. I'm jumping around a little bit, but it's I'm so excited that my brain's a little bit everywhere. So yeah. So now let's come back forward here, and he basically awakens because he fell to the bottom of the sea. His system lag got so bad that he couldn't pilot a jet, and he got downed, and that was it. But he wakes up and he really doesn't remember much of anything, and his system lag is so bad he can barely walk. Of course, he was 8,000 feet underwater, so his system, of course, his shell and everything was crushed and whatnot. But you see him steadily walking, just to somewhere at first, and then eventually what you find out is that Toyo is alive. He survived that explosion because what he did was he took that brain that was the power behind everything, and he had some kind of connection telekinetically, I guess is the way to put it, with this thing. And it brought him and this brain to where that thing comes from, their universe. And for 7 months, Toyo lived there off not eating nothing but dirt and basically moisture from in the air, or when he had the little psyop bubble around him, and he would drink off that. That's literally all he survived off of for 7 months. And Toyo happened to, at one point, come by a follower that was, a huge believer, lived in Toyo's refugee city and this and that. And during this whole ordeal, Toyo somehow transferred his consciousness or something in a way to this gentleman. And so by doing that, after he comes back from this dimension thing, after 7 months, he's able to just come back, and basically it's like, think of it as a reborn type deal, and that's what happens. And where the robot is going is to come to Toyo and bring all of the information that Toyo had stored on the drives from, his dealings, everything from Angela, who at this point is, I believe, dead, and whatnot. And that is why the mech systems were lagging so bad, because he put so much information on it that the processors just could not handle it. And of course, the mech is upset as hell about this, because he didn't give him a choice. He never cared about anybody ever. This was all just Toyo's master plan so that he could continue to manipulate and control the world like he has ever since he was little. One of the things you see in the book is actually at the very, very beginning, is you see him survive literally a nuclear bomb being dropped on his house because he lived in Hiroshima. And 2 pages later, you see him literally manipulating generals and entire governments. And mind you, he's 12 years old. So this is literally how Toyo has ruled everything his entire life. And what he wanted to do is he had to make everyone believe that he was dead, so that they would stop trying to come after him, and he could literally just... His whole mission, really, and this is kind of where the sympathy part of it comes in, which is why I think it's a great villain story. He literally just wants the world to live in peace without war, and everyone be as equals. And he feels that as long as people know he's alive and try to come after him, that he cannot achieve this goal. So with everyone thinking he's dead, he has now, basically, the book ends with him having control over the leaders of Rising Spirit and some of the other world leaders, and they're going to start doing some of the things that they considered the good things from what Toyo did. And I was like, wow. To me, that whole last issue where they explained what Toyo did to stay alive, and that, like, talk about one of the coolest and biggest twists that I've ever seen for a story, and to allow the villain that kind of victory. I was like, honestly, to me, I was like, yes! I was excited to see that happen, because sometimes it always seems like they get the shaft, and in this case, he won, and it's freaking awesome. I love it. So, I again cannot highly recommend the book. Valiant and the writers, especially the guy that has been writing Toyo for such a long time, he really, really did a good job in trying to tell and end Toyo's story with this. And for me, I gave it a 10 out of 10. He did a good job. Art with Valiant is something that I never worry about. It's actually one of the most consistently best things about them in all of comics. Their artwork from book to book is always really, really good. Love the colors. It does get graphic in this book, so definitely not something a younger kid should read. Definitely like teenagers or older, for sure. But it's just an all-around great story that with the words that come in, everything, the images that are drawn and colored, it tells you a brilliant story over, I want to say it's 6 issues in this book, and it's a thick trade. So highly recommend this if you're a fan of villains. Let me know in the comments. Have you read this? Do you consider it one of the best villain stories? If you have. If not, what are some of your favorite villain stories? Because I want to read them. I've made it my mission to go out and try and read some of the best villain stories there are. And just because sometimes, man, they're better than the hero story. And I sound like a broken record because I've said that several times over videos. But that is literally how I feel. That's all I got for this week, guys. Hope you had a good one. Catch you later.